Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about substitution. So we want to use the substitution method of solving a system. So substitution implies exactly what it means, which is we're going to substitute something for one variable in the other equation. Now to solve a system, just like when we did it graphically, we are still looking for where they cross or the point that they share. So what I need to do first is I need to have one equation solved for one of the variables. So if I look at this, I notice that y equals 2x. So y is solved for x. So I'm going to take 2x and put it in for y in the equation below. So that gives me 4x minus 2x equals negative 4. 4x minus 2x is 2x equals negative 4. I divide by 2. And x equals negative 2. I then need to solve for y. So to solve for y, I choose one of my equations. I'm going to choose the top one because it's easier, y equals 2x. I'm going to substitute negative 2 in for x. So that gives me y equals 2 times negative 2, which is y equals negative 4. Therefore, the point negative 2, negative 4 is the solution to the system. Second example. Here, neither one of my equations is x equals or y equals. I look at the top one, I see that that's almost x equals. It's x plus 3y equals 7. So to get x by itself, I subtract 3y from both sides. And I get x equals 7 minus 3y. And then I'm going to take that and substitute it into the second equation for x. Whenever you substitute, you should do it in parentheses. So it's 2 parentheses 7 minus 3y, end parentheses, minus 4y equals negative 6. And now I solve that. So I distribute the 2. You get 14 minus 6y minus 4y equals negative 6. Negative 6y and negative 4y is negative 10y. 14 minus 10y equals negative 6. Subtract 14. Negative 10y equals negative 20. I divide both sides by negative 10. And y equals 2. And then solve the other equation for x. I'm going to take x plus 3y equals 7. It doesn't matter which one you do. I always try to pick the easier. So this is x plus 3 times 2 equals 7. X plus 6 equals 7. Subtract 6 from both sides, and x equals 1. So my answer is 1, 2. So I want you to pause. And I want you to try these 6 over here to the right and come back and check. Okay, so number 1, I substituted 4x in for y in the second equation, which gave me 3x minus 4x equals 1. Which then gave me x equals negative 1. I then chose the top equation to find y, and so I did y equals 4 times negative 1, which gave me y equals negative 4. So my solution is negative 1, negative 4. Number 2, x equals 2y, so I substituted 2y for x into the y equals x minus 2 equation. I then subtracted 2y, got negative y equals negative 2. Divided by negative 1, y equals 2. I then substituted 2 in for y into the x equals 2y and got x equals 4. So my answer is 4, 2. Number 3, these both equal x. So when I substitute 2y minus 3 in for x into the second, I get 2y minus 3 equals 2y minus 4. When I subtract 2y from both sides, I get negative 3 equals 4. Well, this doesn't work -3 doesn't equal 4. My variables are gone. So that is no solution. That would be when the two graphs are parallel. Number 4, I first solved the top equation for x, and I got x equals 2y minus 1. That's y. I then substituted that, and I got 3y equals 2y minus 1. Oops, I made a mistake. That should be plus 4. So then this should be y equals 3. So let me correct that here for us. So since I made a mistake finding y, that also means my x is wrong. So that gives me y equals 3. I then substitute that into my original. So it's x minus 2 times 3 equals -1. So that's x minus 6 equals -1. Add 6, x equals 5. So my solution is 5, 3. Number 5, again, the first thing I do is I'm going to solve for y. So I added 0.2x to both sides. That gave me y equals 0.2x plus 0.5. I then substitute that for y into the second equation, which gives me this equation right here, 0.4x plus 0.2x plus 0.5 equals 1.1. Combine like terms gives me 0.6x plus 0.5 equals 1.1. Subtract 0.5 from both sides, divide by 0.6, x equals 1. I then substitute that in, and so it's -2 times x plus y equals 5. That gives me y equals 0.7. Lastly, I need to solve one of those for x or y. So I solved the top one. I subtracted 2y from both sides. That gave me x equals -2y. I substitute -2y in for x. That gives me 3 times -2y plus 4y equals 4. -6y plus 4y equals -2y. Divide both sides by -2, and y equals -2. So now what we're going to look at is some word problems. So let's do the first one. Mr. Randolph finds that the supply and demand for gasoline at a station is generally given by those equations. Use substitution to find the equilibrium point where the supply and demand intersect. So I get to choose whether or not to solve for x or y. This top one I'm going to solve for x because I notice y is negative. So it's x minus y equals -2. I add y to both sides. So that means x equals -2 plus y. I'm going to take that -2 plus y and substitute it into the bottom equation for x. So that gives me -2 plus y plus the other y that was there equals 10. That's -2 plus 2y equals 10. Add 2 to both sides. Gives me 2y equals 12. Divide by 2. And y equals 6. Now to find x, I get to choose which equation to use. I'm going to use the x plus y equals 10. So that's x plus 6 equals 10. I subtract 6, and x equals 4. So my point of intersection is 4, 6. Number 8, Sanjay is researching population trends in South America. He found that the population of Ecuador increased by 1 million, and the population of Chile increased by 600,000 from 2004 to 2009. The table displays. If the population growth for each country continues at the same rate, in what year are the populations going to be the same? So, in order to predict the same rate, we need to use the slope. Well, this is the population change, so that is our rate. So for Ecuador, our equation is 13 million plus 1 million x. And it's 1 million x equals y because x is the number of years. That's our slope, the 1 million. For Chile, it's 16 million plus 600,000 x equals y. And I want to know where they're equal. So since they both equal y, I can substitute one y for the other. So I get 13 million plus 1 million x equals 16 million plus 600,000 x. I'm going to subtract 600,000 x from both sides. And that gives me 13 million plus 400,000 x equals 16 million. Subtract 13 million from both sides. Gives me 400,000 x equals 3 million. I divide by 400,000 x on both sides. And I get x equals, use my calculator for that. Be careful with typing all your zeros. And I get 7.5. So it'll take 7.5 years. So we will do, I want you to pause and try to do number 9 on your own and come back and check. Okay, so the first thing I did is I defined variables. So I said let A of C equals X, N of C equals Y. Says that they played a total of 38 games. So that means X plus Y equals 38. Then it says the NFC won 2 more games than the AFC. So that means Y equals X plus 2. I substituted X plus 2 for Y. I got X plus 2 equals 38. I solved, I got X equals 18. And then I substituted to find my Y. So that means AFC won 18, NFC is 120. And that is the end of our notes on substitution. If you have any questions, please bring them to class.